Today we're going to talk about the Fujifilm 16 to 80mm f4. Let's roll the intro and then we'll be back here to talk about the lens. Welcome back to my channel, and as I said before, today we're going to talk about the 16 to 80mm f4 from Fujifilm. This is a stabilized and weather-resistant lens that Fuji pushed out at the end of 2019. Let me tell you that this lens review is not sponsored by Fuji in any way. My channel is too small, way too small to even think about having someone sponsorize this. So it's a lens that I bought for myself, and the reason why I bought it are clearly explained in my unboxing and first impression of this lens that I pushed out right after I got it. If you didn't see those, you're gonna find a link somewhere and you can click and have a look at it. What else? In any case, the reason why I bought it is because I do a lot of hiking and travel and landscape photography, and having a lens like this allows me to leave home sometimes, or when I need, every time that I need, the 15 to 200 millimeters. Not that I would need the 200 millimeters reach. Of course, it would be nice to have it, but when you hike a lot, leaving a lens home, it's gonna be a big difference. It's gonna be a lot more water in your bag or something more protective in your bag instead of a lens. It makes a lot of a difference. And that's the reason why I bought it. When it comes to specs, you're gonna see those in the video right now. The most important of them are the equivalence to a full frame, or 35 millimeters. And this lens is equivalent to a 24 to 120 millimeters full frame lens, f4 of course, even though there's people saying that it would be an f5.6. It would be if you want to compare just the aperture and the kind of depth of field that you're going to get, but it's still an f4 lens. When it comes to light gathering, this is an f4 lens. A 9-blade aperture, rounded, for better bokeh. We're going to see some, of course, being an f4 lens is not a lens you buy for bokeh, for real, but in any case, it's not bad having those. Weight of 440 grams, a launch price of about 900 euros, and a claimed 6-stop stabilization. This is a huge number, and if a lens like this can really perform something like that, it's a great achievement. We're going to see that when we're going to talk about image quality. Talking about build quality, this is the lens. You're seeing right now, the lens is solid built, it's weather resistant, as I said, it's durable, it's got a plastic hood, but that's kind of what you get with the majority of the lenses. It extends while zooming. Now, some people may complain about it, but to me, if that allows the overall lens size when it's not being used to be more compact, I'm all for it. I much prefer this rather than having a lens like this that doesn't move when it zooms. But again, that's me. What else? It's the one important thing related to the fact that the lens extends is that while walking, this doesn't extend on its own. This is something that I noticed with the Fuji 55 to 200 millimeters. Every time I walk, that lens keeps becoming longer and longer and longer. That's annoying. This lens doesn't do it. When it's 16 millimeters, which is the usual position you're gonna leave it when you're not using it, it's not gonna move. If you unlock it and go approximately 50 millimeters, then yes, it's still gonna move, but it's not that much. And whenever you walk like this. And me personally, I use the Peak Design thing that is gonna let you have the camera over here, and this lens never moved, so perfect for that. Aperture ring, it's exactly how I want the aperture ring. And with this Fuji, it's kind of hit and miss. Some lenses are too stiff, some lenses are too loose. This one is not bad. It's firm, but not too much. I didn't have any trouble when it comes to using it with gloves. And only a couple of times I found myself moving the ring without willing to do it. So good job on that, Fuji. And the lens doesn't have an OIS switch. That's because Fuji claims that not only the stabilizer in this lens is spectacular, but also that the stabilizer in this lens is so smart that it detects when you're on a tripod and it turns off the OIS on its own. Now, me personally, I would prefer to have a switch anyways. I didn't have any issue, but still, I would like to be able to turn it off by looking at it, because it would be good for me to know if it's on or off whenever I use it. Anyways, not a big deal, but still worth being said. When it comes to using this lens with several cameras, I find that this is a little bit front heavy when used with cameras such as XA line or XT20, XT30, XT10 line. Just a little bit. I didn't have any problem in Iceland. I used this in the XT20. I didn't have any problem. But this, when it comes to sides, it's perfect on XT3 or XH1. Another thing that it's worth being noticed is that this lens has an incredibly fast autofocus. It was so fast, especially when I bought the XT3, that I had to focus again just to be sure that the camera was focusing, because it was too fast. Then I came trusting the combination, and now I don't have this issue anymore. But the lens is very fast when it comes to autofocus. What else should I tell you? I guess we should now move to have a look at the image quality. So this is a classical sharpness test. I'll start at 16mm f4, so the wide end and the widest aperture. You can see a little bit of vignetting over here and here. Nothing to be too much worried about, but it's there. When we zoom, the sharpness is there even at f4. At the center is very good, straight up from f4. But when it goes to the corners, it could be better. Not too bad, but it could be better, definitely. And even here, it could be better. You see, it goes, the more you go out from the center, the worse it gets, which is usual. So have a look at the center again, but now at f5.6. And again, there's a kind of an improvement in the center, but not too much, because it's already good. In f8, you don't see that much of a difference, but let's have a look at the corners. So they get better, they get definitely better compared to f4, but still they're not perfect. And even at f11, now at f11 you see a little bit of diffraction getting in, because it's getting definitely worse at f11 than it was at f8. Well, not necessarily. I was looking at the wrong file probably. So yeah, it's comparable. It doesn't improve between f8 and f16 and f11, and after it's going to get worse because of diffraction. So that's the best that you get. Probably at f8, it's the best. It's a sweet spot for this lens at every focal length, actually. Moving at f22mm or 23mm. The center is sharp, it's definitely sharp, and the corners are better than 16, which is expected. There's still some vignetting, but nothing crazy. And again, sharpness at f5.6, and corners go a little bit better. f8. better, even better, and I guess you're not gonna see even better f11. f11 is even better than f8. So at 22 millimeters, the sharpness is very good across the frame. Moving at 35 millimeters, starting at f4, the center sharpness is very good, and in the extreme corners, you get that softness and some vignetting. Again, not too much. At f.6, f5.6, sharpness increases and corners get a lot better. At f8, corners are still very good. And f11, same thing. And again, I prefer slightly f8 over f11, so the lens is definitely giving its best at f8. 55 millimeter f4, again, the center is sharp, the corners getting soft. f5.6, center is good. Corners are not increasing that much when it comes to sharpness. Again, very good center and a little bit better corners on f8. In f11, the corners get eventually acceptable. Moving at 80 millimeters, the sharpness is there. I mean, it's a little bit less sharp than other focal range, but nothing crazy. While the corners are not sharp at all at f4, which again, it's kind of expected. f5.6, the corners improve, it's a little bit of improvement, but not too much. The center is very good. Here, I guess I did something wrong. I don't see the same sharpness that I had at f5.6, so I guess it can be probably out of focus. There's got to be something wrong with that shot, so don't consider that. And f11, sharpness is very good at the center, but corner just cannot get perfect. And again, not a big deal. I mean, it's kind of expected in a lens like this. Now let's have a look at the shots, test shots to test the sharpness thanks to the stabilizer. This is 80 millimeter f4, 1/8 of a second. Very sharp, no blur, so already incredible performance. Just don't think I'm drunk. I like drinking, but I'm not drunk. 1/4 of a second, there's a little bit of blur, but still usable. And half a second, you can definitely see that it's blurred. But again, if you're in an emergency situation, it's still usable. Plus, here I'm very close to the subject, so the shake is even amplified. So the stabilizer works very, very good. This is a shot that I took at 17 millimeters, 1 second. Now, you tell me if you would expect to have a 1 second handheld shot be as sharp as this. I was trying to be as steady as possible. I was using a couple of tricks, but still, it is sharp. So, very, very good job from Fuji with this stabilizer. Now, having a look at the close focus capabilities, you see at 80 millimeters, you have a pretty decent magnification. And even the bokeh, consider that the background is already nervous. It's shrubs and plants, so it's not the sweetest of the bokeh, and you can see it over here. At f11, the sharpness is very good when it comes to close focus distance, so nothing to complain about. And another macro shot at f4, it's not macro, close-up shot at f4, good sharpness over here, you see that. And then, of course, the depth of field is very shallow. At f11, you see very great sharpness. So the lens is definitely usable. Now, here is out of focus because of the shallow depth of field, no matter, even if we're at f11. But again, sharpness is very good. Now, portrait, and again, don't expect, this is not super sharp. I think my wife may have been moving while I was shooting her. And the background, yeah, it's nervous, but it's nervous the bokeh, but it's nervous the background itself. So don't judge this as a bad bokeh, because it would have looked, at f4 it would have looked bad probably on any lens you would have used. But again, it's usable for portraits like this, not professional portraits. I wouldn't use it for professional portraits. Here it's shot at 16 millimeters, 1/15 of a second. That shows you that it does really well even when the light is coming from the worst spot, like the corner. So there's a flare, but nothing too crazy, and the image is sharp and usable. So nothing to complain again. And again, another night shot, handheld, 1/10 of a second at 18 millimeters. And then a couple of other shots during my last holidays. So this is at 80 millimeters f4. It is decently sharp. I mean, it could be better, but it could even be worse. And again, as you can see, the background doesn't fade that much, because at 80 millimeters f4, you're not going to get that much of a bokeh. So this, if you're buying a lens for this is not the lens for you. Sound stars come out pretty good. This is f16. Very good work, really very good job even with flares and resistance to light coming from the front of the lens. Another shot from Iceland. This is more of a conceptual shot. It's kind of, this is kind of blurry. It's not super sharp, but that's because the wind was shaking me so much that it was impossible to shoot anything sharp. No tripod, it would flip the tripod, so this is handheld with a very strong wind. I still like the image, so I kept it, even though it's not the most sharp of the images. And here another shot from Iceland, and you can see how sharp the lens is over here in my foreground. At f10, even the corner is not that bad. And I like the rendering of the lens. I mean, shadows, colors, I really like it. Here I shot at f16 to show you that the lens is usable. You can definitely tell over here, but of course it loses some of the sharpness that we've seen in the previous shot, which was at f10. And then another very detailed shot. From this you cannot see if it's a kind of a macro shot or a drone shot. I can tell you that I was 1.5 meters from the ground level. And that's the level of detail. It's very detailed. I mean, I would never complain about a lens like this. Of course, over here, I was not super flat with the ground, so the corners are not equally sharp. But the lens is sharp. I mean, look at this. And again, another shot from Iceland at 50 millimeters f11. And again, look at the sharpness. Would you complain about it? I would not. Again, black and white conversion. Another wide angle shot, 16 millimeters f11. And again, sharp, nice colors, even though the sky was not interesting at all. And this is the last shot that I want to show you, because this is a shot that I'm very proud of. This is on a tripod, 3 seconds, and I don't remember if I turned the OIS off from the camera menu, but look at this. This is a very detailed shot. I could print this as a huge print. So this lens does it. This lens is good for where I use it. I will never complain, unless I'm zooming while filming videos. And let me show you why. See? You see what it does? In this case, I'm AFS, so single focus, and it just doesn't, while you zoom, it loses the focus, and it's not gonna get it back again. And you can see also the image changes its exposure while zooming. That's something that shouldn't happen on a lens like this. In this case, I'm continuous autofocus, and look, you see, it changes exposure, then it loses focus, then it gains back focus like now, and when I zoom out, like this, there you go. Lost focus, switch, change of exposure. So basically, you cannot zoom while filming with this lens. And this is a real problem. I'm going to talk about it later. You've seen the image quality, and we're going to talk about it again. But I want to talk about the things that I didn't like before talking about the things that I did like about this lens. So again, the lack of an OIS switch, of the stabilizer switch, to me, it's not a huge problem, but I would have loved to have that switch on the lens. The edge sharpness and the telephoto end sharpness could have been better, and for the price, I would expect them to be a little bit better. Not that I'm complaining about, especially the telephoto end sharpness, it's fine, especially at the center, it's fine. But what I'm talking about, the edges could have been better. I mean, you can see the difference between the center of the frame and the edges. But again, this is somehow expected when you buy a lens, that it's a big compromise. It's a huge focal length. It's a huge focal range. What else? The price can be considered kind of a thing that I didn't like. I would have loved to be a little bit lower. 100 euros lower wouldn't hurt. Just because this lens, especially for this, for Fuji itself, for the purpose of selling this lens, to me, its price is so close to the 16 to 55 that you need to be really, really needing a lens like this instead of the 16 to 55. Because if you're a general purpose, like a wedding photographer or anything like that, it's a no-brainer. You could think about it if it was a lot cheaper, but now with this kind of a difference of price, I would recommend everybody to go to the 16 to 55 instead of this, unless you need that extended zoom range. So for the price, it's a little bit too high, at least for me. And the thing that I hate the most about this lens is that damn thing that it does while zooming. The focusing issue while zooming is incredible. Now, I would like to ask Fuji what the heck they were thinking about, because after you release an XH1, an XT3 cameras that are selling a lot of numbers, especially thanks to the video compartment, you just cannot sell a camera, lens that was released in 2019 that is not usable when zooming during video. It's impossible. I mean, I don't zoom that much, but knowing that I cannot at all makes me upset. And I hope they can fix it with a firmware update, but they tried a couple of times. I don't think it's going to happen. I guess this is part of the design of the lens. It's a parfocal lens. It's a varifocal lens rather than a parfocal lens that would have solved the issue. So yeah, Fuji, why? Don't do it again. Please, don't do it again in any of the zoom that you have and that you will sell in the future. Please, don't. Now, that's it for the things that I didn't like. Let's go to the thing that I liked. The overall build is very good. No complaints about it. It's built like a tank. It's not gonna break that easily. The autofocus is super fast. I mean, mind-blowingly fast. The overall image quality for a zoom like this even though I said that the edge sharpness could have been better. But in general, for a lens like this, the image quality is very good. And I would expect something like this. The problem that this lens has in a compromise like this lens is. The size and weight of this lens are what sold me, because that's exactly what I want when I want to just use one lens. It's perfectly sized, and the weight is perfect on the X-T3, but even on the X-T20 it's not that bad. And I can use just one lens, especially when I'm gonna go hiking for 50 and 20 kilometers. Saving weight and space, it's not bad at all, especially when the lens is so good. The stabilizer in this lens is mind-blowing as well. I would never expect to be able to shoot the shot that I got, like this, the one that I showed you, 1 second at 16 millimeters, or 1/8 or 1/4 of a second at 80 millimeters. It's mind-blowing. Of course, you're not going to get sharp result every time, but knowing that you can, it helps a lot. And I found myself shooting a lot with times that I would not use normally, because I started trusting the stabilizer and I found that it works. So it helped me a lot, especially when you're traveling. You don't want to set up a tripod for like family shot, or like the shot that I show you when you walk around, you just want to take a shot quick and then leave. So incredible stabilizer, Fuji, thanks. And the overall versatility of this lens is what makes the difference. It's all about versatility. This lens, it's all about versatility. Now, is it a perfect lens? Of course not. I've heard reviews of people saying that they would give 10 out of 10 on a lens like this. No way, it's not a 10 out of 10. It's not perfect, it's not even close to being perfect, but it's good for what it is. And that's what this lens is all about. It's about being good at what it is. It's the kind of lens that it's the jack of all trades and master of none. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's kind of expected when you choose a lens like this. And again, the reason why I bought it is pretty clear now. I guess you got it while I'm talking about the same thing. And I'm overall very pleased with the result that I'm getting. So I feel very positive about this lens. I would buy it again, if we have to summarize the thing. Now, talking about standard zoom lens in the Fujifilm range, I was thinking about building a huge comparison between all the normal zoom lens the Fuji has, meaning 16 to 55, 16 to 80, 16 to 50, 18 to 55, 18 to 135, and 15 to 45. I think I mentioned them all. Let me know in the comments below if you like the idea, if you want to see this super showdown of all of these lenses, because I can get all of those and try to come up with a quick comparison and see if the difference are worthy the difference in price, are worth the difference price. So just please let me know in the comments below. What else? Well, thanks for following this review. Thanks for giving me a thumbs up if you liked it. I would ask you to do it. And I would also ask you to subscribe to help me grow the channel and get you even more content of this kind, or the more experienced one, like the ones that I pushed out before. So again, thank you, subscribe, share if you can, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.